Hey, good morning from Coon Creek in Tallahassee, Alabama. If you haven't watched my videos before, I'm Aaron, W4ARB, and I do QRP Morse code activations with parks on the air, and I record a lot of them. So that's what I'm about to do this morning, is a parks activation here at Coon Creek. This is one of my favorite parks, just about 15 minutes from my house. It's very quiet. Not a lot of people come here except to use the boat ramp, which you can see right now. I thought I would do a little bit something a little bit different to begin the video off this morning. And that is, I know that I've from time to time shown what equipment I'm using. I thought I'd go through in kind of more detail what equipment I bring with me, keep in my bag, and what I think it takes to do a parks on the air activation. Now, I'm specifically a CW or Morse code operator, but that doesn't really change a whole lot between Morse code and if you wanted to do QRP single sideband. Now, I'm not going to say for digital modes. I'm not that well versed in what all would be required to do that. So we'll really just focus on what it would take to get you in the field for a parks on the air activation. Specifically, what I like to keep just in a small backpack. So to start off, the backpack I always carry with me here is a Tom Ben. I don't remember the exact model of it, but I can link it in the video in case anybody is interested. It's a great pack for QRP setup of a radio anyway. So let's dig into what are the necessities that I keep in my bag all the time. So we'll open it up. This top part here, I just keep random cables. So I've got like a charger for my Yaesu FT3 up here, as well as some camera cables and such. So nothing really parks activation related there. But once we get down into the bag, there's a few things that you just really have to have to do a park activation. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of them out, and then we'll talk through what each of them are. So radio. That little pack has most of my cables in it. Okay, so let's talk through this really quick. So today, what I have with me is the Lab 599 Discovery TX500. This is just a QRP radio. It basically does 160 through 6 meters. And it is a extremely durable, tough radio. I like to bring it in the field on days like today. I'm probably going to get drizzled on while I'm activating this morning. So I love to bring this radio because it is water resistant. So I don't really have to worry about that today. So that's the first thing that you need is a radio. So if you want to do QRP activations, it helps to have a QRP radio. You can also turn down the power on your 100 watt radio, if you just want to get a feel for what it's like operating QRP. But really, to me, the draw of QRP is the fact that your packs can be really small. So like, I keep this gear in my backpack at all times, even if I have my work equipment in there, my laptop. If I have to go on a business trip, I can fit clothes in there with it. So the point is that it packs really, really small. It doesn't take much room. So I can keep it with me all the time. It's not like a big loadout that I have to pack in my truck and drive and then make multiple trips back and forth to my truck to unload it once I get to a park. My gear is very compact. I keep it with me all the time. So that's kind of a draw of QRP. So the Lab 599 is a great option of a QRP radio. There's a lot of other great options out there too. The ICOM 705 is a great radio. The Yaesu FT817, 818 that was recently discontinued. That's a fantastic radio too. I've got two 817s, and those are really fun to use. And they're not very hard to find, so I mean, if you do want to check that radio out, they're pretty easy to find on the used market and pretty affordable. Yeah, the ICOM 705 is a great option. Has a built-in battery pack that's, you know, good for a short activation. You can also get additional battery packs, so that's nice having that internal option, which is why I like also the Elecraft KX2. It's another option that's great with a internal battery that is an available option, and that internal battery lasts at least an hour of a good activation, so really enjoy that. But the Lab 599 Discovery TX500 does not have a built-in battery. Now, Lab 599 recently released a battery case that attaches onto the back of this, and you can see the terminals here where the battery matches up to the back of the radio and is powered through those. But right now it is a special order item available through Ham Radio Outlet, HRO. And from what I've seen, I don't know that anyone in the US has actually gotten theirs yet. So they're pretty pricey. So I don't have one of those, especially since they haven't shipped to the US yet. But what I use a lot with this radio and a lot of others is this battery right here. No, it's not a fancy big case battery that will last me a year of operating and can be solar charged in the field. This is a talent cell. The exact model is here. Is it a YB1206000 USB? But it is a 12-volt lithium-ion battery pack, similar to the bricks that you would carry with you to charge a cell phone. And in fact, you can charge your cell phone off of this. But this is also a 12-volt output. Now, they say this is 12-volt. The nominal voltage of it is 11.1. So I don't know that I would call it 12-volt. It's 11.1 volts. A lot of QRP radios have wide operating voltage ranges, including the Lab 599. So this is perfect. It lasts plenty of time. I think they say this is a 3 amp hour battery, and I think that's probably about right. I've activated for a solid hour with it, and that normally goes through, you know, a little less than half, so a little less than 1.5 amp hours or so. So yeah, that's probably about right. But great battery pack for this, and this is very affordable. So I know a lot of people recommend BioNO batteries. You've also seen those in my videos. I like those a lot. I've got a couple of the 3 amp hours, and they are really good batteries. If you want something that is solid and will last a long time, man, BioNO is the way to go. But if you want something that's affordable, convenient to pack, because I actually leave this in my backpack and just run the wire from it, this is a really good option, and you can charge your cell phone from it. So you know, these work really well for QRP radios. Now, you're not going to power a Yaesu FT891 off of this, but any of those QRP radios that I mentioned earlier will power off of this just fine. So really good battery option. So that's the second thing. We've got a radio, we've got our battery. So next we need our cables. That's one of the things that's not necessarily cool to talk about, right? But there's a lot of cables involved in doing a parks activation. And personally, I like to keep them at least somewhat organized. So this is just a little small bag off of Amazon, and I will link it in the video as well. And this bag is where I keep my cables. So in this part here, I keep a short run, I think this is a 20-foot piece of RG174, so good coax. It's, you know, a high loss coax, but very convenient for packing here, and it's 20 feet, so not long enough to matter. And then in this big back zipper is where I keep everything else. So that's why I said somewhat organized. See a nice big clump of cables come out there, and my CW key. So we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so make sure that you bring all the cables that are necessary for your radio. Also always bring a pair of headphones. Whether I plan to use them or not, I like to keep a pair of earbuds with me. Sometimes it's loud in the field, so it's really good to just have these in case I need them, and let me hear a little bit better. So always keep a pair of these. These are cheap, like $2 ones from the dollar store, so you know, don't have to get fancy with it. Alright, so all the fun cables. So this, let me go back to the battery for a second. So the way that I hook this battery up is I have this coaxial connector that goes into the battery, and it came with the battery, but I cut off the other end and just put it onto some power pole connectors. So boom, there we go. Now I can connect this to everything because I use power poles on everything. If you have not gotten into power poles yet, order you a kit. Go to powerwerx.com. That's power, POWERWERX.com, and order one of their kits with the crimp tool and with the power poles. And I promise you, after you do a few, you're going to be addicted. They are fantastic, making everything a lot easier to connect together where you can reuse. So next, let's talk about the CW keys, or if you're wanting to do single sideband, you need your microphone. So that is another piece of kit that goes in this, right? So that goes with the radio. Nothing really fancy to talk about there. Some people use Heil headsets and such. Now, I'm a CW operator, so I'm sorry I can't offer you much advice there, but you do need a microphone if you're going to do that. Anyway, but CW keys, on the other hand, I like to keep a small one in the bag with my cables, and this is the Bamatech Bamakey TP3, and this thing is tiny. I don't know that I can really do justice of how small that this key really is, but I mean, it is very, very small, and so it packs really nicely, but it is quite sensitive, and it actually feels really good, especially for its size. So I've got some other, you know, compact QRP keys, and they don't feel nearly this good. So you know, if you're looking for a small paddle key to keep with you, I highly recommend this option. Marcus that makes them does a fantastic job making these things, and they are very precision, well made, heavy duty, all the good words. These are good keys. CNC machined aluminum. So check these out if you want one. If you want something cheaper, because these are not cheap, you can't go wrong with the CW Morse keys either. So I've used those a lot in the field. Those are 3D printed. Most of them are 3D printed. They also have an aluminum version. But the CW Morse keys are a good, affordable option for a paddle key. They even have straight keys, etc. too. So check those out. I think it's cwmorse.us. cwmorse.us is their website, and they sell them on there, but I think you can also find them on Amazon and other places. Gigaparts sells them. Those are great keys too. So keep something like that in your kit, and you'll always be ready to go. Even if you are a single sideband operator, keep a key with you. You might end up using it. All right, next, or last but not least, antenna. So here I've got a lot of people show, you know, their kits and how tiny they can make them, and they'll just put this in the kit. That's really small, right? That's a par, end feds, 10, 20, 40 trail friendly. And so this is a little QRP antenna that does 10, 20, and 40 as a resonant antenna. I like this antenna a lot. But I still am not too great at hanging these, but I'm getting better, so I've been carrying them a lot more lately. But one of the things that you really can't forget about, and that I don't hear talked about a whole lot, is a throw line. So sure, you can get away with a fishing weight and paracord or whatever. And I've used paracord to hang antennas at my house and all those fun kinds of things, but there really is no substitute that I have found for an arborist throw weight, which is basically a bean bag, and an actual arborist throw line. Let me tell you why. So I suck at throwing, but the arborist throw weight is literally made to swing and throw into tree branches. That's what it's made for. The shape of it, the materials, everything, it's made for that. Similarly, the throw line is very slick, so it doesn't get stuck in branches like paracord does. This stuff just slides. So once you get it up into a tree branch, it's not going to get stuck like other ropes and paracord do. So I'm telling you, if you don't have one of these, then you're really missing a pretty important part of your field kit. So I would go with a 12 ounce or an 8 ounce. I actually would probably go with an 8 ounce if I was buying another one. 12 ounce is a little too heavy, but it's what I have, and so I make it work. And then I've got about, I think 60 feet, 50 feet or so of the throw line on here, maybe 50 feet, I don't know. And it actually came with this throw weight, and I wrapped it around this leftover antenna wire winder, actually from Buddy Pole. So yeah, that's just a handy way for me to carry it. There's a lot of different ways. There's more elegant bags that are made for these. I'm by no means an expert in them, but I will say that if you're going to use wire antennas in the field, I would say you really need to have one, unless you're going to be using a mast. But the thing about masts is you instantly just made it a lot harder to carry it with you all the time. So again, if you're going for carrying with you all the time, this is practical, right? But once you start adding things like a mast, now it becomes more of a weekend camping trip type of kit, not a carry with you every day. Now, if you want to be like me, I'm not telling you to do that, but if you want to be like me, I activate 3 to 4 times a week. And to do that, I like to have my bag packed, ready to go with me at all times. All right, so let's say you don't want to use a wire antenna. So I'm going to show a second antenna option, and I actually carry both of these with me. So that's my wire antenna. Then I keep this. So on this side of my backpack, there is a tall pocket, and in it I keep my favorite portable vertical. This is actually what I'm going to use this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and get it out anyway. Alright, so portable vertical here. This is the Gable GRA 7350T. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you're probably sick of hearing me talk about this thing because I really like it. But this is a telescopic vertical. Don't equate it to, say, a Comet toy box, one of those little short antennas that's, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet tall. This thing is about 8 feet tall, maybe a little longer when it's fully telescoped and the coil is slid out. It's a screwdriver style antenna, so it's closer to, say, a full-size ham stick in performance, if not a little bit better than a ham stick. So this is an adjustable coil here at the bottom. It's a mini screwdriver, so similar to, say, an ATOS 120, but just smaller, right? So once you set it for a band, it's pretty narrow bandwidth. So, say if you've got it on 40 meters, you're probably going to have to adjust it to go from CW to single sideband. But it's so easy to adjust and compact, and it packs down really small. I think that's totally worth it. So this is a really great option. They also make this tripod that goes with it. And this tripod in this configuration has a UHF or SO239 on top for that to screw into. And then it's got your coax connector coming out, which I have a BNC adapter on because I use BNC coax cables. Great thing about this tripod is the legs are also telescoping, so you can pull these legs out and get this really stable. So you could even run a 17-foot vertical on this, and I've seen guys do that. So great tripod option that's made specifically for antennas. But there's one other thing that you really have to have if you're going to use these types of verticals, and that is at least one counterpoise wire. So this is about a 20-something foot long counterpoise wire, and you can see that I just had it electrical taped at the end where I crimped this connector on, and that electrical tape is sliding off, so I need to pull that off. I need to put some real heat shrink on it. I had run out when I made this, so I don't have heat shrink on it. But right now I'll slide that electrical tape back up and we'll call it good. But you've got to have a counterpoise wire with this type of antenna. Now I like to run these antennas off of the ground, never sitting on the ground. I like to have it at least 3 or 4 feet off of the ground if I can, sitting on a picnic table at least. And then my counterpoise wire also off of the ground. I never let this touch the ground. If this is laying on the ground and this is sitting on the ground, you're going to have a lot of ground losses. It just is what it is. Unless you do about 64 radials, you're going to have ground losses. If you get it up off of the ground and use a quarter wave tuned radial, so this one is actually cut for 30 meters because I use that band a lot. And then I can coil up the end to adjust it for bands higher than that. To make it a quarter wavelength. But you've got to have one of these to complete the antenna, right? So this is electrically a quarter wavelength vertical, so then you have your quarter wavelength counterpoise, and effectively you've created not an inverted L like you would do with an in-fed antenna, but you have created an L. So that is what I like to do in the field, not ground radials for short verticals like this. I like to use an elevated counterpoise, and it really does make a performance difference. If you don't believe me, give it a try and let me know if it helps for you as well, because I know a lot of these kits come with ground radials and a ground spike that keeps that antenna right on the ground, and I'm telling you, you'll do a lot better if you get that off of the ground. You can use more than one quarter wave radial, or counterpoise rather, if you want to. I only use one because, again, I keep this kit small. So I keep it simple. I can set it up quick. So with that being said, this is what I keep with me. Interested to hear what you think in the comments. If there's any questions I have not answered, please feel free to leave those in the comments as well, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have about my setup or opinions on something you're thinking about. So I'm going to get set up and get going on my parks activation this morning. So we'll be back. So just to show really quickly how I set this antenna up. So I've got this on the tripod sitting on the bed cover of my truck. So it's about 4 feet off of the ground or so, however tall the bed of my truck is. And then that one raised counterpoise goes all the way to this sign where I just tied it off, so it never touches the ground. So that gives you a good picture of how I set this up in practical ways. If I don't have the bed of my truck, I might use a picnic table. There's one right over there in front of my truck. I could have used that. There's a lot of ways to get verticals off of the ground, so highly recommend giving that a try. All right, let's start calling CQ and see what we can do. trying to come back to one person, got somebody else coming back. So I should have been writing times here, 44. I can't read my own writing there. Oh. Sorry. I think I got YIY there. Man. EP. Idaho. All right. Ah. Missed that last letter. Ah, P, gotcha. Nebraska. 5, gotcha. Probably stronger than 5.5 actually. A little fading though. Eight. Wow, lots of X's there. KX264. Let me get you. I'm coming, I'm coming. Uh-huh. Got that one. QSO Map. Wow. Let me get them real quick. I love it. I know that sound. Give me a 559. Yep. RPG. Ooh. ICE, gotcha. Wow, man, that's a good little run right there. Whew. Well, if anyone ever tells you that a coil-loaded vertical doesn't work, you just show them this video, because that Gable GRA 7350T that I showed earlier is exactly what I'm using right now, and this has been a non-stop pileup for the entire time. So clearly it's not working. Wow, a fish just jumped out of the water. How about that? Let's go ahead and put 47, 46. Fill in my times there. All right, let's do another CQ. Maybe I can get a few more in the log before packing up, and then probably head back in about 10 minutes. Oh, I didn't hear that. My brain just didn't process it. Okay. WB. Gotcha. Is that DDJ or BBJ? I don't know. Pretty sure it's DDJ. Alright, we're going to call that a morning. I think that's a pretty good activation. So let's see how many we got in the log. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 20. So we got 28 in the log. Started at 11:46 and it is now 12:19 UTC. So we've got 28 in the log in a little over 30 minutes, or 33 minutes. I would say that is pretty darn good. That's almost a QSO per minute. So this just goes to show you that, especially with CW, a very simple setup that fits in a backpack and you can carry with you all the time can be very effective. And funny part is, let me show you this. I'm about to show you this on my phone for just a second because I think you need to see this so you can believe me. Give me just 1 second. Okay, so take a look at the propagation today. So we've got A index of 21, SFI solar flux of 162, 80 and 40 are poor, 30 and 20 poor. So by all counts here, 30 meters should be in poor conditions, right? 12:14 GMT, that's 12:14 UTC, which is the same time I'm going by, so that is as of, what, like 6 minutes ago. Poor conditions. Look at the log. Alright, my country's about to come out. Y'all don't take this so seriously. Just don't take it that seriously. Now, obviously, there's some things that are just a little bit more obvious. Like 80 meters in the middle of the day, probably going to be really noisy, right? 160 meters, middle of the day, probably going to be really noisy. 10 meters in the middle of the night, probably not going to get very far. Those are obvious things, right? But things like 40 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters, those are three really reliable bands. And I'm telling you, just because it says poor here does not mean that it necessarily is. Because if you look at this map down here, what I'm actually seeing, this is the maximum usable frequency for the map, right? So right now I am right on the edge of the light green and dark green, which means that my MUF is between 8 and 11 megahertz. Well, 30 meters is 10 megahertz. So it's actually pretty darn good, right? So if you go over all the way to where, California is right now, and this actually shows no suitable frequency or high absorption. So yeah, there's some really bad propagation over there. But if you look up you know, in the central US area and up the East Coast, most of it, it looks like 30 meters, 40 meters would be quite usable. You know, all the way to the central part of the US would be very usable. So just because you see on this poor propagation, don't let it keep you from going out into the field. I know I let it sometimes, mostly if I see, the one thing I look at more than anything is geomagnetic field signal noise level. If this says major storm, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult. If it says unsettled or minor storm, you know, I'm not really that worried about it. Those are actually the two things that I care about more than anything else when it comes to propagation is there a major solar storm? If not, I'm going to get out in the field. Heck, even if there is, I'm probably still going to. It just may be a little bit more difficult. So anyway, good activation and good number of contacts, simple setup with an 8-foot telescoping vertical with quote-unquote poor propagation. So I hope this encourages you to get out in the field and play some radio. And if you have any questions or comments on my setup or activation today or anything, be happy to talk with you. So please drop a comment, send me an email, be happy to talk with you. Until next time, 72 from W4ARB. We'll catch you at the next activation.